You showed the graphic a moment ago about how many people are losing their coverage in California and Florida. It is possible that more people since the 1st of October have lost their coverage than have signed up for the Affordable Care Act government program in all 50 states. Opponents of Obamacare lost in Congress, they lost in the Supreme Court, they lost in the 2012 election. They may be winning now in the implementation of it. You mentioned 10 Democratic senators are for delay. The two candidates for the Senate in Georgia and Kentucky, Democratic candidates, have now endorsed delay. So there is a tide moving.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. That voice belongs to one man and only one man, as we welcome in for the first time to the Steve Malzberg Show, the great George Will, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and Fox News contributor. Hello, George.
How are you?
I am well. You and I spoke back in 2008. I believe it was One Man's America that had come out at the time. Yep. And I was privileged to talk to you then. And before we get to healthcare, I'd love to talk to you about two things, if you don't mind. One is the World Series. And I know that you selected the Cardinals. I would have talked to you the same way if you selected Boston. What an amazing series. I mean, the pitching stories, a guy like Lester on the Red Sox side, and also the way that the games 3 and 4 ended, once in a lifetime, first time ever it ended on a obstruction play, and then the next game ending on a pickoff. It's just been a wild series.
It set back baseball artistically about 10 years.
Yeah, ugly, lots of errors, yeah.
But I think the fans like it. I mean, what baseball really wants is a 6 or 7 game series. They've got the 6th game. The most exciting phrase in professional sports is Game 7, so I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and I know that for you, you wrote something about your son, and you said that for him and you, baseball is not just a part-time preoccupation. And I know your love for the game, and I did have the privilege of talking to you about your son at the time when we spoke last time, and I know that John is, I guess, turned 41 in May, correct?
That's correct.
And
he works in the clubhouse of the Washington Nationals, which means he gets up in the morning and goes to a ballpark, which means he has a better job than I've got.
That's very true, although
your listeners may not know John has Down syndrome, so he's got some special needs. Your listeners may not know John has Down syndrome, so he's got some special needs.
For writing about and keeping us all informed about your son, and on his 40th birthday you wrote a very moving for writing about and keeping us all informed about your son, and on his 40th birthday you wrote a very moving Caps game, but his heart was going to be with the Nationals, who were playing, I think, in Pittsburgh at the time or something. It's so heartwarming, and I know you feel very strongly about the life issue, especially when it comes to people aborting children who are less than perfect, shall we say.
Well, yes, since I'm less than perfect, and I think almost everyone else is, it's a very dangerous, slippery slope, or if you wish, the thin end of a very large wedge when you start sorting out the population as being, for this or that flaw, unworthy of life.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on. I played the healthcare soundbite, which you were absolutely right on Sunday on Fox News Sunday. I believe that's where that was from. And there are more people losing their health insurance and have signed up for Obamacare at this point. Let me ask you, there are two schools of thought moving forward, George, and I'd be curious to know yours. There's a group, Chris Ruddy, my boss, the CEO, founder of Newsmax, Lawrence Kudlow, and others say, don't delay anything. Let this go on. Don't vote to delay. Don't give the Democrats what they could use for the 2014 election, and make this go away for a while. We tried to delay it as Republicans. Let it go through now and don't help them out. And some Republicans are saying we have a responsibility to limit the chaos and we should delay it for a year. Where do you fit in?
I think I'm in the chaos school. It seems to me the president has been emphatic that the Obamacare can be implemented as written. Republicans have said it can't. Then the president confirmed the Republican view by his starkly and unambiguously illegal delay of the employer mandate. That employer mandate starting date was written into the law. The law cannot be changed by presidents unilaterally. It just can't be done. So the first thing I'd say is, A, he's embraced it. He wants to go forward. Let it. The quickest way to refute all the arguments for Obamacare is to experience Obamacare. So that's, but second, in any case, if it's going to be delayed, it must be delayed by Congress and signed by the President, that we must begin to restore the rule of law. But before we get to that, my general feeling is stand back, be quiet, and if anything, make the President beg really, Congress to rescue him from his own handiwork.
Yeah. Okay. I'm agreeing. I've been led to that school of thought. I really believe that's the best thing. We're talking to George Will here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let me let you hear something. I mean, you're working at Fox now. By the way, congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
All those years at ABC. Does it feel any different moving over to Fox?
Well, it's the Sunday show is in Washington, which ABC's show no longer is, so it feels good, and there are a lot of good friends over there at Fox, and it's got a lot of energy because it's a news organization 24/7.
Well, it makes you a target where maybe on ABC you weren't as such a target for the folks at MSNBC, and if you want a good chuckle, let's give you a good chuckle. Here's cut 30.
And every now and then, the right-wing politicians and pundits actually say it.
Of course I want Obamacare to fail, because if it doesn't fail, it will just further entangle American society with a government that is not up to this.
Of course you want Obamacare to fail? Well, of course. This is what's wrong with the Republican Party. And of course, the American people are fed up with it. And of course, Republicans will pay the price for it at election time.
All right. I don't have to tell you that's Al Sharpton on MSNBC. I still can't believe I say that he has a show, but he does.
Well, the American people have, this is, I guess, a news bulletin to Mr. Sharpton, but the American people were opposed to Obamacare when it was proposed. They were even more opposed to it when it passed, and they're even more opposed to it today than they were when it passed. I'm not the one convincing the American people. Experience and common sense is convincing the American people of this.
And are you a viewer of MSNBC at all? Not just now because you're at Fox, but have you been in the past? Are there, is there any host there that you like or don't like, or do you not watch it at all?
If something is not on Fox or ESPN, I'm apt not to see.
All right, then let's get back to sports, because there's an issue talking about Washington and this quest to rid the NFL of the racist name Redskins, and I'm saying racist. I don't believe it's racist, but that's what the cry is on the parts of many. Bill Rhoden of the New York Times was recently on one of the shows, and I want you to hear what he had to say, Will, in cut 23. This is cut 23. He said the media has to take the lead, and he hasn't written that name in years, he claims. Here it is.
There will be legislation. Eventually the name is going to be changed, but I think that it has to start with us in the media to stop using the name.
Well, I think the fact that Oneida Indian officials will meet with NFL officials next week in New York City is a good indication that this is happening.
Oh, no, it's gonna happen. This has become sort of the movement for a lot of young people this generation who've gotten radio campaigns, internet campaigns, because, you know, it's just the name has outlived its usefulness. I mean, we all realize it's not appropriate. Some people are offended, and we have to move on. There's only one person who doesn't realize it, and he owns the team.
Okay, so I know he's talking about there's going to be legislation. What, in the Congress?
I would refer him to Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, the list of the enumerated powers of Congress, and I didn't see anything in there about naming NFL teams.
Where do you fit in on the whole Redskin issue?
Well, I begin by noting that Mr. Rhoden is not a Native American, and he's not empowered to speak for Native Americans. First, there's an empirical question. Is it a fact that a substantial number of Native Americans are offended by this? We know they're not offended, really, by the Florida State Seminoles, by the tomahawk chop of the Atlanta Braves, by the name of the Cleveland Indians, by the, well, go down the list. There are all kinds of names deriving from the Native American heritage. So first, empirically, prove to me that a substantial number of Native Americans are offended by this, and I will reconsider it. But there's that threshold empirical question before we get to the next step as to whether the name ought to be changed. I notice again that Mr. Rhoden purports to speak for an offended group of which he is not a member. There are all kinds of various white liberals purporting to speak for Native Americans. Let's hear from the Native Americans.
I couldn't agree with you more. And there was a poll taken on the Redskin issue in particular, and I think 80% were not offended. I don't have that poll information offhand, but I do remember citing it a few weeks ago. So there has been a study done on that. So one final question. Game 6. It's going to be tough for the Cardinals to win 2 in Fenway. I mean, that goes without saying, but what do you think?
It's tough to win 2 in Fenway, but it's tough to win 1 against the pitcher they're throwing tonight, and that's Mr. Walker. He's a 22-year-old prodigy, and so if I had to bet my net worth, I'd be very nervous, but I'd bet it on the Cardinals.
That's funny because Charles Krauthammer yesterday said he had to stop playing speed chess because, well, that's not why he stopped, but he was talking about debt also. So maybe you guys could get together and make a bet. Maybe he's on the other side of the issue. Hey, George, really a pleasure to speak to you. I hope you'll come back.
I sure will.
Thank you very much. Take care. That's George Will, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Watch him on the Fox News channel. Read him, of course, in the Washington Post. And it's interesting. You know, I just didn't bring it up because I didn't bring it up. But George Will wrote a column back in 2000, maybe it was 10, where Mike Huckabee had been on my radio show at WOR at the time here in New York City. And Mike Huckabee accidentally said Kenya or something in reference to something in Obama related. Not that he was born in Kenya, but said something about Kenya, that Obama grew up in Kenya or went to school in Kenya. When it wasn't Kenya, I think where was it? Was it Pakistan? I don't even remember where the heck it was. When he went to the madrasa, you know, we know that for a fact. I don't remember which country he was educated in. I'm slipping my mind for some reason. However, so George... Indonesia. I believe it was Indonesia. Thank you, Will. Anyway, I don't know how that got out of my mind. So, right. He said Kenya when he meant to say Indonesia, I think was the big brouhaha. And that story went viral. It went nutty viral. I mean, I didn't even send it out to anybody. It just got picked up all over the country. And George Will wrote a column on it, basically not saying some unflattering things about, I mean, I was incidental in the column. But in the context of that column and the different kinds of conservatives and Republicans, I was lumped because I asked the question and followed up with Huckabee. I was lumped with Huckabee and Newt Gingrich for that specific issue, and I took great pride of being trashed with it. It was a Huckabee, Gingrich, and Malzberg actually mentioned in one line together. So I got a kick out of that. But I still love George Will, and I just love the way he talks about his son and promotes his son, and his son does have Down syndrome, as we mentioned, and you know, his son is just a living testament to what a full and rich life someone with Down syndrome and other disabilities could live, and that's a whole other issue on the right to life side. All right, folks, we're coming back. You want to weigh in? 877 Newsmax, 877-639-7629 on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.